And the next 2 nights, I didn't leave that station. You know, I wrote this documentary, 1-hour documentary. I think, you know, the incentive of having a new son in the way, I was all pumped up, ended up staying and writing it. And what we came out with was a Peabody Award winner. The Peabody, as Dr. DuPont said, it's equivalent on the print side of what a Pulitzer Prize is. That year there were 28 given out, only 3 to local stations. The other 2 local stations were big markets. We were Biloxi, Mississippi, the 154th market in the country. You're not supposed to be able to do those things. And we come back around to Jim Love, who was our owner, Ole Miss grad, who was just a visionary, and he let us do it. So here's an excerpt from Did They Die in Vain from 1989. Those 3 crosses, we went in the back of the station and set them up.
The year is 1964.
And set them on fire.
Lyndon Johnson is settling in as president following the assassination of John Kennedy. In the jungles of South Vietnam, U.S. military involvement is growing with each passing day. The Beatles arrive in New York City for their first American tour. Martin Luther King receives the Nobel Peace Prize. In Philadelphia, Mississippi, 3 civil rights workers are murdered while attempting to register blacks to vote.
The murderers of Mickey Schwerner, Andrew Goodman, and James Chaney were trying to send a message
Years
to
haven't been
civil rights
kind.
supporters. Stop the movement. What the murderers actually succeeded in accomplishing was having an entire nation focus its attention on Mississippi and its resistance to change and progress. Leaders of the civil rights movement had designated the summer of 1964 as Freedom Summer. Their plan was to send volunteers, white and black, into the Deep South to register black voters.
Bob Moses was the director of the Mississippi Summer Project.
We hope to send into Mississippi this summer upwards of 1,000 teachers, ministers, lawyers, and students.
At a freedom school in Ohio, sponsored by a coalition of civil rights groups, volunteers learned how to teach disenfranchised blacks about their constitutional rights.
I was a volunteer in 1964 with the Freedom Summer program, and I guess most of what we did that summer was knock on doors and talk to people about change is coming, and see which people were interested in participating in that change, in making it happen.
But making it happen wasn't easy. Many blacks in Mississippi, and more specifically in Neshoba County, were not so willing to buck the system.
This place was ruled more or less by terror. You know, it was somewhat like a police state. It was just, a black person had little, if any, recourse, and expected little justice, if any.
Such were conditions in Neshoba County in the summer of 1964.
It's almost like a united front against the outside world in Philadelphia.
Neshoba County in 1964 had a population of 20,000 residents, 14,000 of whom were white. The other 6,000 residents were black or Choctaw Indian. The county sheriff department was run by Lawrence Rainey, who along with his chief deputy, Cecil Price, was always attired in Stetson hat, cowboy boots, and a 6-shooter at his side. Civil rights workers were told to avoid the men at all costs.
Neshoba County was said to be the most dangerous county in Mississippi for civil rights workers because of its law enforcement during the mid-1960s.
No, that wouldn't say it was. I don't think we're nearly as bad as some of the other places.
When some civil rights workers were arrested and beaten, records have not proved that.
There wasn't one arrested and beaten by the sheriff's department. There was plenty of them arrested for breaking the law.
Speeding
and all, but they wasn't beaten.
Breaking the law, what laws were broken?
Well, for one, with the way they'd come in and march, and they've got several times for firearms, and some of them for drinking.
So you weren't, the sheriff's department would not arrest them would just not go out of the way to arrest them, would you?
No, and there was none that was beaten by the sheriff's department.
Mickey Schwerner, Andrew Goodman, and James Chaney were last seen alive in Neshoba County. On the morning of June 21st, 1964, they had left their base in Meridian to visit the site of the burned Mount Zion Methodist Church in the Longdale community. The church had been torched 5 days earlier by a group of Ku Klux Klansmen.
Schwerner was a New Yorker who was spearheading a drive in East Mississippi to improve conditions for blacks. Goodman was also from New York. He had arrived in Mississippi only a day earlier, ready to devote his entire summer to the civil rights cause. James Chaney was a native Mississippian who had recently become involved in the civil rights movement. It was 1:30 in the afternoon on Father's Day, June 21st, 1964, when the three arrived in Neshoba County and with Longdale resident Ernest Kirkland visited the church grounds.
That was the saddest part about it.
Walking through the rubble and all that.
Yeah.
Church members only 3 weeks earlier agreed to allow Schwerner to operate a freedom school in their building. The dreams of Schwerner and the local black community went up in smoke.
They were telling me some stuff that I really didn't know. And I really hadn't thought about it, you know. And they was good guys.
Kirkland was the last friendly face to see Goodman, Schwerner, and Chaney alive.
Did you know
Yeah.
they were in danger, do you think?
No, I don't think so, no. They never would talk about them and stuff like that, you know. Never did. But my daddy always told them to be careful, you know.
Told them to be careful.
Yeah.
The three left Kirkland at 3 p.m. They were scheduled to return to Meridian by 4. They never made it. Their 1963 blue Ford station wagon was stopped by Sheriff Deputy Cecil Price. Price was a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and the Klan was determined to keep civil rights workers out of the county. Price arrested the three, charging Chaney with speeding. Schwerner and Goodman were held as suspects in the firebombing of the Mount Zion Church. They were taken to the jail located in downtown Philadelphia and booked. Goodman and Schwerner were kept in the white section of the jail. Chaney was taken to the Negro section. They were denied a request to make a phone call to their Meridian headquarters.
The time frame for them to get back, there was no report. And another 20 minutes went by, there was no report. The dispatcher called me in Clarksville to alert me to the fact that 3 of the workers were overdue. I toyed with the idea for a while, and then I called the Federal Bureau of Investigation and expressed to them that we had some concern about this absence, and requested that they surveil the jails between Philadelphia and Meridian. Putting us in jail was a common tactic of the opposition to the movement. See, I've been in jail 38 times, you know, in all of this whole belief. So going to jail was no real obstruction, but it was a delay, and when that was the circumstances, we needed to know it. But we were informed by the FBI that we had not proven that the young men had been absent 24 hours, nor had we proven they'd been carried across state lines. And the discipline of the FBI would not permit the FBI to enter the case until one or both of those conditions were met.
Organization workers then began making phone calls, trying to track down their colleagues. Records show the Neshoba County Jail was called at 5:30 p.m. Whoever answered denied having seen Goodman, Schwerner, and Chaney. At 10 o'clock, the three were released from jail. They drove off, zigzagging their way through downtown Philadelphia. Finally, they turned south on Highway 19, 45 miles from home. Several miles down the road, Klansmen tipped off to their release, gathered in the parking lot of a roadside gas station. FBI records show these Klansmen soon joined a posse led by Deputy Price. 10 miles from their home county, Chaney, Goodman, and Schwerner led Price and company on a high-speed chase. Within minutes, they were back in custody. But this time, they weren't going to jail. Instead, they were taken to a remote area and shot one by one.